In the previous lecture, we had seen different equality comparisons of the variables in the shell scripting which are of numeric data type. Now we will see how to compare the variables in the shell scripting which are of string data type. So in this example, I am saving string called ABC in A and I am saving a string EFG in string B. For equality comparison of two string variables in shell scripting, we use a single equal to sign. So is the content of variable A equal to content of B? No. So it will print on the screen A is not equal to B. So it has printed A is not equal to B. Is the content of A not equal to content of B? Yes. ABC is not equal to EFG. So it will print on the screen A is not equal to B. A is not equal to B. -z is a construct which will be true if the length of the string pointed by variable A is of length 0. If this variable A is not defined, then its content will be of length 0. So in our example, A is containing a string called ABC whose length is not 0. Right? So -z A will be false because A contains ABC and its length is not 0. Hence it will evaluate on the screen string length is not 0. String length is not 0. That is because the length of A is not 0. Okay. Again more examples. Now here A is having ABC, B is having EFG. -n will check whether content of variable A is not 0. So here ABC, which is saved in variable A, its length is not 0. Hence this expression evaluates to true and it will print on the screen string length is not 0. It is printed on the screen string length is not 0. If we just define $a variable, just that in expression field of ifs block, then this will evaluate to true if there is some string assigned to A. So in this example, ABC is assigned to A, so there is something here, so it will print on the screen string is not empty. Clear? Now let's see some more examples on what are the different flags which are available in the shell scripting to check whether a file is having a read permission, write permission and execute permissions in Linux, right? So in this example, I have a sample file here. I am checking whether this file has a read permission. How to do that? Using -r flag, it checks whether this file has a read permission. So in this example, this file has read, write and execute permissions. So I'm just doing a check here, okay? So is this file having a read permission? Yes. So it prints on the screen file has read access. File has read access. -w is used to check whether this file has a write permission. In our example, this file does have a write permission, so it will print on the screen file has write permission. -x is used to check whether this file has a execute permissions. In this example, it has it, so it prints on the screen file has execute permissions. Clear? Then let's see some more flags. -f will be true if this variable contains a value which is a file. Okay, so this file is pointed over here. So if this is indeed a file, so -f will be true. So it will print on the screen file is an ordinary file. -d is used to check whether this file is a directory and it's not an ordinary file. In this case, this is a file and it is not a directory. So it will print on the screen this is not a directory. -s will check whether this file is of size 0. So in our example, this file is an empty file, so it will print on the screen file size is 0. -e is used to check whether this file does exist on the Linux file system. So in this example, this file already exists, so this expression will be true and it will print on the screen file exists. Clear? Now let's learn about switch case statements. It is a case statement wherein it is a substitute for your if-elif construct. Remember, in one of the previous sessions I had explained to you all if-elif constructs. If first expression is true, it will evaluate it, else it will go to elif, evaluate its expression. If that is true, false, it will go to another elif. If that expression is false, it will go to another elif. It will keep on doing that. If all the if-elif expressions are false, then it will evaluate whatever is in else. So in order to replace that, we have a different, much easier construct called case construct. Okay, so let me explain to you all how this works. So I have a fruit variable in which I am saving a value called kiwi. Case is a keyword for this construct. So type case space $fruit space in. So it checks whether the content of the fruit, which is kiwi, is in one of these options. So what is the first option? Apple. Is kiwi equal to apple? No. So it won't evaluate this block. Is kiwi equal to banana? No. So it won't evaluate this block as well. Is kiwi equal to kiwi? Yes. So it will execute this block and it will print on the screen New Zealand is famous for kiwi. It has printed on the screen New Zealand is famous for kiwi. And end this block with isec, which is opposite of case. So if you just type case opposite, you get isec. So end it isec. So just to summarize this block, started with case, ended with isec. Then you name the variable which you will be used for comparison. Use in, and then keep on giving all the options that you will have. And on the right hand side of the option, please place the close sign, close bracket. And after evaluating a block in a particular option, please type double colons. After the block in option, double colons. After the block in option, double colons. So double colons will make sure that if any one option is true, it will evaluate its block and it will break out from the block. For example, if the fruit contained a value banana, it will make a check whether banana is equal to apple. No. Then it will make a check banana is equal to banana. Yes. It will execute this block and it will come out of the block. It won't even go to check whether banana is equal to kiwi. So these double colons are used for breaking out from the construct. I repeat, these double colons are used to break out from this construct. Clear? So I'll just repeat it again. This case statement starts with case keyword followed by the variable followed by in keyword. Then you can keep on placing all the options that you have and end that option with a close bracket. And for one option you have a block of code, end that block with double semicolons, end this block with double semicolons, end this block with double semicolons. So in this example, kiwi is saved into fruit. So it checks whether content of fruit is equal to apple. Is kiwi equal to apple? No. Then it will check whether kiwi equal to banana. No. Then it checks whether kiwi is equal to kiwi. Yes. So it will execute this statement and come out of the block. Clear? One more example on case statements. In one of my initial lectures, I had explained to you all positional parameters, right? Whenever you call a shell script, if you pass a command line parameters to it, then each of the command line parameters that you pass are called positional parameters. And the first command line parameter is indexed with $1. Second command line parameter $2. Third command line parameter $3 and so on. Up till 9 positional parameters you can have, which you can fetch from $1 to $9. $0 is nothing but name of the script that you are executing. Clear? So in this example, I have a $1, which is the first command line parameter. So I'm saving that value in option, variable called option. Then using a case statement, I check the value of option whether it is in one of these options. So the first option is -f. That is, in this example, I check whether the first command line parameter that the user had typed in is -f. If user had typed in -f as the first parameter, whatever is the second parameter that user had typed, that I am saving it into variable called file. And I am printing on the screen file name is whatever user had typed as second parameter. And I am breaking out of the case block. If user had typed in the first option as -d, then whatever is the second command line parameter, I am saving it into variable dir. And I am printing on the screen dir name is dir. And I am breaking out of the case block. Asterisk meaning if the first parameter that user had typed is neither -f nor -d, anything else user had typed, then this is like your default case. That time it will print on the screen base name $0 meaning the name of the script. It will print the usage of the script saying please use the script in this fashion, wherein -f followed by file name or -d followed by directory name. These are the only two valid options that I am supporting. If user types any other flag other than -f, -d to this script, then I will print this usage message on the screen. And I am exiting from the script. So let me execute this script over here. First I am running, I have given this script a name called test.sh. So I say /test.sh. I don't pass any command line parameters. So when the shell script executes the first command line parameter, I didn't pass anything. So option is neither -f nor -d. So it will print the usage of the script on the screen. Then I am executing this script. I am passing -f as first parameter, index.html as second parameter. So since first parameter matches -f, whatever is passed in the second command line parameter, that is index.html, I am saving it into variable file. And I am printing on the screen file name is index.html. File name is index.html. Then I am executing this script and I am passing -d. So -d matches this part, so it takes the second command line parameter, which is Unix, and saves it into variable dir. And it will print on the screen dir name is Unix. Clear? Now in the next lecture we will see what are the different loops which are supported in shell scripting. Loop is nothing but a construct wherein you can evaluate a block of the code n number of times. You can keep on evaluating it n number of times. Okay, so that is what the loops are in shell scripting. So what are the different types of loops which are supported in shell scripting, that we will see as part of the next lecture. Thank you.